Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me now. Woman of God, I need you to hear this with your whole heart. You are enough. You've been questioning yourself for too long. You've been looking in the mirror, measuring yourself by what you see in others, measuring yourself by standards that were never meant to define you. Let me tell you something. God did not make a mistake when he made you. He didn't say, oops, let me try that again. He breathed purpose into your life before you ever took your first breath. You keep thinking you need more time, more resources, more validation. But the truth is you already have everything you need to walk in your purpose. The gifts, the strength, the resilience, it's all been planted inside you. But you gotta believe it. You gotta stand up and say, I will not shrink to fit into spaces that were never meant for me. You were created to rise, to lead, to inspire. When you start comparing your journey to everybody else's highlight reel, you rob yourself of the miracle that is your own story. Stop doing that. You have no idea the battles other people are fighting behind closed doors. You have no idea what it took for them to get where they are. And the truth is, you don't need their journey. You need your own, because God's purpose for you is tailor-made. It's not one size fits all. I want you to wake up tomorrow with a new conviction in your spirit. When your feet hit the floor, remind yourself, I am enough. Not because the world says so, but because the one who made the world says so. When doubt comes knocking, and it will, you answer with faith. You answer with that quiet, unshakable belief that you are chosen, you are called, you are worthy. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone to tell you it's your time. It's been your time, and it still is. You're here for a reason, and the world needs what you carry. So lift your head up, straighten your back, and embrace your purpose like your life depends on it, because in so many ways, it does. You are a woman of God. You are enough. And you will not leave this world without leaving your mark on it. Now go out there and live like you believe it. You are already equipped with everything you need to fulfill your purpose. Before you were born, God placed within you every gift, every spark of creativity, every ounce of strength and resilience you would need to navigate this life. So often we look outside ourselves, searching for the missing piece we think will make us worthy or ready. We chase degrees, titles, and validation from other people, believing that once we attain some external marker of success or approval, we will finally be equipped to step into our calling. But the truth is, you are already carrying everything essential within you. You have a heart that feels deeply and a mind capable of imagining possibilities no one else can see. You have intuition that whispers when something isn't right and nudges you forward when it is. You have experiences, both the triumphs and the painful lessons, that have shaped you into someone uniquely prepared to impact others. You have faith, even if it sometimes feels as fragile as a flickering candle in the dark. You have determination that has kept you going through disappointments you didn't think you'd survive. When you were created, you were made with intentionality. Nothing was random or left out. Your personality, your passions, your perspective, they all combine to form a blueprint no one else can duplicate. That is why comparing yourself to others will always leave you feeling empty. You are not meant to copy someone else's design. You are meant to discover and develop the gifts you were entrusted with. Some gifts come easily, and you recognize them right away. Maybe you are compassionate, a natural encourager, someone whose words lift others out of despair. Maybe you have a vision for how to solve problems, organize chaos, or build something from nothing. Other gifts are hidden, buried under layers of fear, insecurity, or shame. They wait patiently for you to look inward, to peel back the excuses and the limiting beliefs so you can uncover the treasure inside. You don't have to wait until you feel completely confident or until you have every detail figured out. If you wait for certainty, you will wait forever. Growth happens in motion, in the space between knowing you are called and trusting that you will learn along the way. The skills you think you lack will develop through practice. The wisdom you feel unqualified to share will deepen through experience. But the seed of everything you will become is already planted in you. Your purpose is not an accident. It is the outworking of your identity, the overflow of who you are when you are fully alive and surrendered to something greater than yourself. Even in your moments of weakness, you are equipped. Even when you feel broken, the pieces of your life still hold value. Sometimes the very thing you believe disqualifies you is what makes you relatable and able to touch others in ways no polished performance ever could. Your scars carry stories that can free someone else from their own shame. Your vulnerability can bridge the gap between isolation and connection. When you show up authentically, you model courage and give others permission to do the same. There is a lie that says you must become someone else to be worthy of purpose. But you are not here to impersonate a version of success that was never meant for you. You are here to be the fullest expression of the gifts you already have. That means honoring your talents instead of dismissing them as insignificant. It means paying attention to what makes your heart light up and what burdens you to the point you can't look away. Those desires were planted in you because you are meant to do something about them. When you align your actions with the truth that you already possess what you need, you stop striving and start creating. You stop begging for opportunities and start recognizing that you are an opportunity for someone else to encounter hope, inspiration, or healing. Every challenge you faced has prepared you. Every setback taught you something about endurance and resourcefulness. Every closed door redirected you towards something better. The growth you experienced during seasons of waiting or disappointment is part of your preparation. It's refining your character, strengthening your resilience, and sharpening your focus so that when the moment comes to step into your purpose fully, you will do it with clarity and conviction. You will recognize the opportunity because you've been becoming the person ready to seize it. You are already equipped because God is not limited by your limitations. Where you feel lacking, His strength is made perfect. Where you feel inadequate, His grace is sufficient. You don't have to earn His favor or prove your worthiness. You already have His love and approval, which is the most unshakable foundation you could ever stand on. From that place of acceptance, you can take bold risks, knowing that your value is not on the line. Sometimes we look at other people's gifts and wonder why we can't be more like them. But what if you realize that the very things you envy in others are simply reflections of the unique purpose they were created to fulfill? You have your own lane. And when you walk in it unapologetically, you bring something irreplaceable into the world. Imagine how much freedom you would feel if you stopped trying to be good at everything and started trusting that what you do well is exactly what you were meant to contribute. Your purpose doesn't have to look impressive to be meaningful. Sometimes it shows up in small, unseen acts of kindness. Sometimes it's the quiet consistency of showing up for your family, your community, or your work when no one else notices. Purpose isn't always loud and flashy. More often, it's woven into the ordinary moments where you choose to serve, love, create, and encourage. And the impact of those moments echoes farther than you will ever see. You are already equipped with compassion that can soften hardened hearts. You have ideas that can solve problems and bring hope. You have stories that can inspire someone else to keep going. You have gifts that are waiting for you to stop questioning whether you are enough and start trusting that you were made for this. When you step into that truth, you unlock a level of purpose and fulfillment that no title or accolade can ever replicate. You don't have to hustle to prove your worth. You don't have to wait for a perfect plan. You don't have to silence your doubts completely. You simply have to take the next step, trusting that as you go, everything you need will be provided. The resources will come, the clarity will grow, the doors will open. But it begins with the decision to believe you already carry something valuable inside you. That comparison steals your joy and blinds you to your unique calling in ways that are often subtle at first and all-consuming. It begins innocently enough as you scroll through social media or listen to someone share their accomplishments. You tell yourself you're just gathering inspiration, just learning what's possible. But somewhere in your mind, a small voice starts whispering that what you have is not enough, that who you are is somehow lacking. You begin to measure your worth by someone else's highlight reel, forgetting that you're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality with their carefully curated moments. This constant measuring creates a sense of inadequacy that robs you of the simple joys in your own life. When you compare, you stop seeing the blessings that are right in front of you. You look past the answered prayers, the progress you've made, the moments of growth that have shaped your character. Actually, you lose sight of the fact that your story was never meant to look like anyone else's. Each person's journey is designed with purpose, woven together with experiences, struggles, and triumphs that are uniquely theirs. But comparison strips away that uniqueness and tries to force you into a mold that was never meant to fit. Every time you allow yourself to dwell on what others have, you discount the value of your own path. You begin to believe the lie that success is a limited resource, as though someone else's breakthrough means there is less available for you. This scarcity mindset is toxic. It breeds resentment, jealousy, and self-pity, all of which crowd out gratitude and joy. When your heart is occupied by envy, there is little room left for wonder or peace. You begin to move through life, always searching for what you lack instead of celebrating what you have. Comparison is especially dangerous because it doesn't stop with achievement. It seeps into every area of your life, your appearance, your relationships, your spiritual journey. You start to believe that if you looked a certain way or had a different personality or experienced God the way someone else does, then you would finally feel complete. But this mindset is a trap. It keeps you in a cycle of striving and self-criticism that never ends, because there will always be someone who seems to have more or do better. What you fail to see when you compare is the cost of someone else's success. You see the promotion, but not the sleepless nights. You see the beautiful marriage, but not the years of struggle and forgiveness. You see the platform, but not the countless hours of unseen work. You are comparing your reality, complete with flaws, doubts, and unfinished dreams, to an illusion. This illusion becomes a standard you can never meet because it doesn't exist. It's a moving target that leaves you feeling exhausted and defeated no matter how hard you try to keep up. One of the most damaging effects of comparison is that it blinds you to your own calling. When you're constantly looking sideways, you can't focus on the path set before you. Your energy gets divided between trying to emulate others and resenting yourself for not measuring up. You become so entangled in competition that you stop listening to the quiet voice of purpose within you. That voice doesn't shout for attention. It whispers in moments of stillness. But comparison is loud. It drowns out your intuition and distracts you from the unique gifts you were created to share. You were never meant to walk someone else's path. Your calling is not a copy of anyone else's story. When you fixate on what other people are doing, you neglect the responsibility and privilege of stewarding your own purpose. Your gifts begin to wither because they are not being used. Your dreams shrink because they are not being nurtured. And all the while, you feel more and more disconnected from who you really are. Comparison doesn't just hurt you, it also diminishes the impact you can have on others. When you're preoccupied with envy, you can't celebrate the successes of those around you. You withhold encouragement and support because deep down, their progress feels like a threat to your own worth. This robs you of meaningful connection and community. It creates isolation where there could be collaboration. It builds walls where there could be bridges. Imagine what would happen if you stopped comparing long enough to appreciate your own journey. If you could look at your life and see it through the lens of gratitude instead of lack, you would begin to recognize the milestones you've already reached, the growth you've already experienced, the resilience you've developed through trials that no one else will ever fully understand. You would see that your path has been guided by a purpose bigger than your own understanding, and that every twist and turn has equipped you for what's next. Comparison also creates an impossible standard for perfection. You expect yourself to be good at everything because you're collecting the best qualities of everyone around you and trying to embody them all at once. But you were never meant to be everything to everyone. You were meant to be exactly who you are, embracing your strengths and your weaknesses, your victories and your failures. When you release the need to outperform or outshine, you give yourself permission to simply be present. And in that presence, you find peace. The truth is, the world doesn't need another version of someone else. The world needs you. It needs your perspective, your voice, your creativity. It needs the compassion that only you can offer because of the experiences you've walked through. When you step fully into your calling, you create ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. But you can't do that if your energy is consumed by envy. You can't fulfill your purpose if you're too busy trying to live someone else's life. Comparison is a thief, but it only has power when you let it take root in your heart. You have the choice to shift your focus, to turn your attention away from what everyone else is doing and toward what you are called to do. That shift doesn't mean you stop learning from others or celebrating their successes. It means you no longer use their progress as a weapon against yourself. You can admire someone without diminishing your own worth. You can be inspired without feeling inferior. When you feel comparison creeping in, pause and remind yourself that your value isn't determined by external measures. It's intrinsic, unchanging, and rooted in who you were created to be. Your worth doesn't fluctuate with likes, followers, income, or accolades. It is constant, anchored in something deeper than circumstances or opinions. Learning to let go of comparison is an ongoing practice. It requires awareness and intentionality. It means catching yourself in those moments when envy starts to rise and choosing to redirect your thoughts. You can train your mind to focus on gratitude, to notice the blessings in your own life, to celebrate your progress instead of minimizing it. Over time, this practice becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a way of life marked by peace and purpose. When you release comparison, you reclaim your joy. You create space to dream your own dreams, set your own goals, and measure your success by the standards that truly matter. You begin to trust that your path is unfolding exactly as it should, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. You recognize that there is no competition for your calling. What has been set apart for you cannot be taken by someone else. Comparison steals your joy because it convinces you that you are not enough. But the truth is, you have always been enough. You have always been equipped with everything you need to fulfill your purpose. You don't have to look outside yourself for validation. You don't have to prove your worth by outdoing anyone else. You simply have to be faithful to the life you've been given and the gifts you've been entrusted with. Faith and action together will open doors you never imagined. Because faith alone, while powerful, is incomplete without movement, and action alone, while commendable, often lacks the deeper purpose and resilience that faith provides. Faith is the unseen conviction, the knowing in your spirit that something is possible even when you have no evidence it can happen. Action is the decision to get up each day and do the work anyway, to put one foot in front of the other when you would rather wait for a sign that everything will turn out the way you hope. When you bring faith and action together, you create a partnership that is unstoppable. Faith without action can become passive hope, an abstract belief that never materializes into anything tangible. It is easy to say you believe for a breakthrough, a dream, a calling fulfilled, but if you never put your hands to work, your faith remains dormant potential. Likewise, action without faith can become empty striving, a frantic attempt to make things happen through sheer willpower, which eventually leaves you exhausted and discouraged because you are relying only on your own strength. Faith fuels you to keep moving when the results are slow or invisible. It becomes the foundation you stand on when your efforts seem to produce nothing but obstacles. It whispers to your heart that what you are doing matters, even if no one else sees it yet. Action is the proof that you believe what you say you believe. It is the visible evidence of your inner conviction. Together, faith and action become a cycle that sustains progress and builds momentum. You take a step in faith, and as you move forward, your confidence grows. You begin to see small glimpses of progress, which in turn strengthens your faith to keep going. Many people wait for the perfect conditions to act. They tell themselves they will move forward when they feel more prepared, when they have more clarity, when they are certain they will succeed. But faith requires you to step out before you see the entire path. It asks you to trust that provision will come as you go. Sometimes you won't see the open door until you have the courage to walk toward the wall that looks impossible to break through. When you act in faith, you position yourself to see opportunities that others miss because they were unwilling to take the first step without a guarantee. Faith gives you the courage to dream bigger than your limitations. Action grounds those dreams in reality. It takes your vision out of your head and into your hands. It transforms ideas into impact, prayers into progress. It is easy to romanticize faith as something passive, a quiet waiting for divine intervention. But true faith is dynamic. It inspires you to prepare, to plan, to practice, and to persevere. When you wake up every morning and choose to keep going despite uncertainty, you are exercising faith in the most powerful way. There is something extraordinary that happens when you combine a deep belief in what is possible with the discipline to keep showing up. Doors open that you never even knew existed. Resources arrive seemingly out of nowhere. Connections are made that accelerate your journey in ways you could never have orchestrated on your own. This is the intersection where the miraculous and the practical meet. Some people call it coincidence, but those who have walked with faith know that it is purpose unfolding in real time. Faith and action together cultivate resilience. When you experience setbacks, and you will, it is faith that reminds you the story isn't over. It is faith that holds you steady when the outcome looks nothing like you planned. But it is action that keeps you moving forward, step by imperfect step. It is action that says, I will keep going, not because I feel like it, but because I have decided that this matters. Over time, this combination builds a strength within you that can weather any storm. Without faith, your actions become mechanical and lifeless. You start to measure your worth by productivity alone, which is a dangerous trap. You lose touch with your why, the purpose that makes your efforts meaningful. But when you infuse your work with faith, even the mundane task becomes sacred. You recognize that every small act is a seed sown, a contribution to something bigger than yourself. Some of the most remarkable achievements in history began with nothing more than faith and a willingness to act. Think of the inventors, the pioneers, the leaders who had no blueprint to follow. They believed in what could be, and they took bold steps toward that vision. They faced ridicule, failure, and countless reasons to quit, but faith anchored them and action propelled them. The same principles apply to your life. You may not be trying to change the world on a grand scale, but every time you act on your convictions, you change your world. Faith and action also teach you patience. You learn that not every door opens quickly or easily. Some doors require persistence, knocking again and again until the right moment arrives. Faith keeps your heart expectant during the waiting, while action ensures you are prepared when the opportunity finally appears. There is nothing wasted in this process. Every setback refines your character. Every delay develops your humility. Every small victory proves that progress is possible. When you look back on seasons of your life, you will see that the most pivotal moments were those when you dared to believe and then dared to act. You will remember the times you stretched beyond your comfort zone and trusted that somehow, in some way, things would work out. And you will realize that even when you couldn't see it, your faith and your actions were creating a path forward. Some people will try to convince you that faith is naive, that you should only trust what you can see and measure. Others will suggest that action without reflection is the only way to achieve anything. But you will find the greatest fulfillment and impact when you blend both. When you allow faith to inform your vision and action to give it form. When you live this way, you become an example to others. You show them that it is possible to move through life with purpose and conviction. You model what it looks like to persevere with grace, to pursue goals with humility, to trust that unseen forces are working on your behalf. Your life becomes a testimony that faith is not passive. It is not sitting back and wishing. It is the fuel that ignites consistent action. You may not always feel courageous. You may have days when your faith wavers and your motivation fades. That is normal. But if you can return to your commitment to combine belief with effort, you will find your way forward again and again. You will discover that even small, imperfect steps can lead to extraordinary outcomes when they are taken with faith. There are doors waiting to open for you, doors to opportunities, healing, connection, and growth. They may look closed now, but faith says they will open in due time. Action says you will be ready when they do. When you embrace this partnership, you no longer have to fear the unknown because you trust that your efforts are multiplied by something greater than you can see. And that trust allows you to keep moving, no matter how uncertain the road ahead may seem. Your worth is not defined by approval, but by God's design. This is a truth many people hear but struggle to truly believe because so much of our culture teaches us the opposite. From the time you are young, you are taught to measure your value by what others think of you. You learn to seek praise and recognition, to earn gold stars, to work hard so you can be seen as successful or talented or desirable. You learn to tie your identity to your performance and to the opinions of people who often do not even know your heart. Over time, this habit becomes a burden that weighs down your spirit and blinds you to the inherent worth you were born with. The reality is you were created intentionally with a purpose and a design that cannot be duplicated or diminished. God wove you together with care, crafting every detail of your personality, every strength and gift, every quirk that makes you who you are. Long before you accomplished anything, before you proved yourself to anyone, before you earned anyone's approval, you were already valuable. Your worth was sealed by the one who formed you in the secret place, who called you by name and declared you his. Nothing you do can increase or decrease that worth. It is fixed, constant, unshakable. Yet, it is easy to forget this when you live in a world that rewards performance and perfection. You see people praised for their talents, their beauty, their influence, and you start to wonder if you measure up. You start to believe the lie that you are only as valuable as your latest achievement or as lovable as the last compliment you received. You begin to chase validation, thinking that if you can gather enough approval, you will finally feel secure in who you are. But the approval of people is a fragile foundation. It shifts with trends, moods, and misunderstandings. It is never enough to sustain your sense of identity because it was never meant to be your source of worth in the first place. There will always be people who misunderstand you, who overlook your contributions, who fail to see your heart. If you hinge your self-worth on their acceptance, you will constantly feel like you are not enough. You will live in fear of rejection and criticism, trying to mold yourself into a version of you that will be more acceptable. But the more you try to become what others want, the more you drift away from who you really are. You trade authenticity for approval, and in doing so, you lose the joy and freedom that come from living as the person God designed you to be. God's design is not accidental. He created you with purpose, on purpose. Every part of you is made for a reason, even the parts you wish were different. Your temperament, your passions, your sensitivities, your talents, all of it is intentional. When you embrace this, you stop apologizing for who you are. You stop feeling ashamed of your weaknesses because you trust that God's strength shows up most powerfully in those places. You stop trying to outdo or impress others because you know you were never in competition with them to begin with. You were created with an assignment that no one else can fulfill exactly as you can. That is why comparing yourself to others is such a waste of energy. Their calling is theirs. Your calling is yours. Your worth does not rise when you succeed more than someone else, nor does it fall when someone else seems to have more visible success. When you ground your identity in God's design, you become steady, anchored in something deeper than circumstances or opinions. Sometimes you will be celebrated and praised. Sometimes you will be criticized or ignored. Neither changes the truth about your worth. God does not look at your life the way people do. He does not measure you by your resume or your social media following or your bank account. He looks at your heart. He sees your hidden motives, your unseen sacrifices, your quiet acts of faithfulness. He delights in you simply because you are his. You can breathe easier when you accept that you don't have to perform your way into love. You don't have to earn belonging. You don't have to prove you are worthy of respect. You already are. The creator of the universe has called you beloved. He has declared you chosen and set apart. That is your identity, whether or not anyone else recognizes it. Living from this place of security changes everything. It frees you to take risks because you are no longer terrified of failing in front of others. You know that even if you fall short, your worth remains intact. It frees you to be honest about your struggles because you don't have to maintain a facade of perfection to feel acceptable. It frees you to celebrate other people's successes without feeling threatened because their achievements don't diminish your value. When you stop relying on approval as your compass, you discover a deeper sense of purpose. You begin to ask, what has God designed me to do? Instead of what will people applaud me for doing? You start to care more about faithfulness than popularity, more about integrity than recognition. You become willing to serve in hidden places because you trust that God sees and honors every act of obedience, no matter how small it appears to others. There's a quiet confidence that grows when you build your identity on God's design. You don't have to shout to prove your importance. You don't have to scramble to keep up with every trend or opinion. You can be still and know that you are enough. You can rest in the truth that your worth is eternal, untouched by criticism or applause. This doesn't mean you stop caring about excellence or growth. It means you no longer strive out of desperation for acceptance. Instead, you work and grow out of gratitude for the gifts you've been given and the desire to steward them well. You create and lead and serve from a place of fullness rather than lack. You love people freely because you are not using them to prop up your identity. When you embrace the truth of your worth in God, you also become more compassionate toward others. You no longer need to judge them to feel better about yourself. You no longer feel compelled to compete for affirmation, but you can see them through the same lens of grace, understanding that they too are fearfully and wonderfully made. This way of living is countercultural. It will feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you have spent years measuring yourself by others' opinions. But the freedom it brings is worth unlearning old habits. Every time you feel the urge to look for approval, you have an opportunity to pause and remember where your true worth comes. You can choose to root yourself again in the unchanging truth that you are valuable because God designed you, not because the world validates you. Over time, this practice reshapes your mind and heart. It becomes easier to let go of people pleasing. It becomes natural to honor your God-given identity, even when it doesn't win you popularity. You begin to experience peace that isn't tied to circumstances and joy that isn't dependent on applause. You live with a deeper sense of purpose, knowing that you were made intentionally for such a time as this, and that your worth was settled long before you took your first breath. In the end, remember this: you were created with intention, crafted by God's own hands, and placed here for a purpose no one else can fulfill. Your worth does not hinge on who notices you, praises you, or validates your efforts. It was established before you ever spoke a word, achieved a goal, or won anyone's approval. When you choose faith over fear, action over hesitation, and authenticity over comparison, you unlock doors and opportunities you never imagined possible. You are enough not because of what you do or how perfectly you perform, but because of who you are, a woman of God, chosen, loved, and called. So walk boldly in your purpose, confident that you carry everything you need within you. Let go of the need to measure up to someone else's story and trust that your own story, designed by God, is already worthy.